do have a wonderful recipe that we're going to be making today. But before we get started, we do add like some of those virtual tour components to these sessions. So we'll be starting with that. But first up, if anyone's new, welcome. We're so happy to have you. On the agenda for today is the tour of the Maritimes that Mona has put together. Then we'll have the recipe demonstration video and stages so we can follow along. And finally, just tips for healthy treats. So that's an open discussion. Anyone who has any ideas, any suggestions, feel free to chime in. You can either type it in the chat if you don't feel comfortable unmuting your mic, or if you would like to unmute your mic and speak, by all means, go ahead. And finally is just some ideas and feedback. So just wrapping up what you would like to see in future sessions, those sorts of things. So without further ado, we can get to the tour of the Maritimes. Just need to switch the screen I'm sharing.
Wondering why you decided to stand me up. Was I kidding myself and thinking that maybe we kind of I'm the attending physician here at Mercy General Hospital.
And welcome to the virtual trip to Maritimes. My name
Is everyone able to hear that?
And I would like to take you on a
a little bit louder.
There is
please.
some background noise.
Nova Scotia,
Okay.
PI.
Okay, I can try that again. Just give me 1 second. Okay, so if anyone's microphone is unmuted, just mute it for the purpose of the video so that there's less feedback. And let me just try and reshare the sound and hopefully that'll work.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the virtual trip to Maritimes. My name is Mona Satvedi, and I would like to take you on a virtual tour of 3 provinces. That is Nova Scotia, PEI, and New Brunswick today. So the word Maritimes is an adjective that means off the sea. Thus, any land associated with the sea can be considered a maritime state or province. But the term Maritimes has historically been collectively applied to New Brunswick, Nova Scotia, and PEI, all of which the border of Atlantic Ocean. The Hudson Bay area is northerly and has a severe climate, and most of the population of Ontario, Quebec, and Manitoba reside far inland. We will start with Nova Scotia. So Nova Scotia is full of fascinating adventures and activities, from the Cape Breton Island to the bustling city of Halifax. There is something fun for everyone to explore. Blue Rocks are in Nova Scotia, which is full of fascinating adventures. The Cape Breton Island is one of the places to see. Blue Rock is one of the places to visit. It looks amazing at Cape Breton. And another attraction in Halifax area is the tall ship. And it is a cruise aboard the tall ship Silva is the perfect way to fully appreciate a beautiful day on the Halifax harbor. Your journey begins on the Halifax waterfront as you set off to view some of the Halifax most notable landmarks, including George Island, the Halifax waterfront, historic properties, and more. And it is also share a story of the city's rich history, including the accounts of Halifax explosion, lesser known stories of Halifax shipwrecks, the historical facts about the Silva. Help the crew hoist the Silva sail, enjoy a beverage or two, and you can onboard Murphy's pub or sit back and relax and enjoy the beautiful day out of the water. Cape Breton Island is one of the world's top island destination, and it is also called Unamaki, is one of the seven ancestral of unceded territories of the Mi'kmaq people. It's a place where trails are alive with Aboriginal, Gaelic, and Acadian culture carve out communities. Cape Breton has been ranked #1 island in North America by Condé Nast Travelers. The Highland National Park is one of the place to visit. The natural beauty is of the Highland National Park is breathtaking, and one of the place in Nova Scotia to visit is Cape Breton Island and Highland National Park. There are other places also you can visit, like Cabot Trail, Fortress of Louisbourg National Historic Site, Maritimes Museum of the Atlantic, Lunenburg, Portwood Island, Thomas Redden Provincial Park. Now we are in PEI. So PEI is the smallest province in Canada, and it is famous for the red sand beaches, red soil, potatoes. Yeah, we love PEI potatoes, and the irreplaceable Anne of Gables, Anne of Green Gables. And it is also known as the birthplace of Canada since the island hosted the inaugural meeting towards the country's 1867 Confederation. Here you see Confederation Beach is the tallest, I would say, the longest beach. My apologies. And it is breathtaking. The bridge was completed in 1997, and it is prior to the bridge, the only crossing was by ferry here or at the eastern end of the island at Woodlands. The 12.9-kilometer bridge is world's longest over freezing winter and considered one of the Canada's top engineering accomplishment of the 20th century. Crossing the curving bridge from New Brunswick is a thrilling experience, and the first town visitors reach in PEI in Borden Carlton, from which you get the best view of the majestic bridge. The PEI National Park occupies much of the island's central northern coastline. 3 sections of the park offer beaches, wildlife watching, outdoor activities, historic buildings, and other attractions. Campground and picnic area cater to families and outdoor activities. For more than 150 years, Prince Edward Island lobster fishers have been waking up early, setting their traps and hauling in the most delicious red shell crust oceans to share with customers around the world. About 1,200 island lobster fishers work out of PEI's 45 ports. Many fishers are carrying on a tradition that goes back generations. The island lobster fishers work on the water for 2 months in one of the PEI's 2 lobster season. And the first day of the season is known as Setting Day. It's a day of celebration where hundreds of boats leave port, loaded down with traps, heading for the fishing grounds, while hundreds from the community come out to cheer them up. The rest of the year is busy. And of course, everybody loves lobsters. I love lobsters. One place to visit in PEI is the St. Dunstan Basilica. The cathedral was built in the early 1900s in the high Victorian Gothic revival style, yet sadly had to be rebuilt just a few years later following a devastating fire. There is 84 kilometers driving along Route 1 from Charlottetown to Wood Islands via the ferry of Pictou, Nova Scotia, and via Route 108 to the nearby New Glasgow. This is considered as one of the most scenic route in Maritimes. One place to visit is Bottle House. So Bottle House is over 25,000 recycled bottle ingeniously cemented together to create the bottle house, and it's a must see tourist attraction situated in Cape Egmont in PEI, and they were built by Edward D. Arsenal. He gave birth to these houses after having received a postcard of a glass castle from his daughter in 1979, an attraction she had visited on Vancouver Island in British Columbia. So the same summer, he started collecting the bottle in community, and then it was ready from 1980 to 1984. He cleverly cemented over 25,000 bottles of various shapes, size, and colors into these three fantasy-like buildings. The colors of the bottle house are magnificent. The other places you can visit in PEI is Lucy Maud Montgomery Birthplace, Confederation Center of the Arts, lighthouses on Point East Coastal Drive, Bassay Head Provincial Park, and North Cape Lighthouse. New Brunswick. It is the home of the largest ocean tidal whirlpool in the Western Hemispheres. It is located off the coast of Deer Island. When you are in New Brunswick, you cannot miss the whale watching. It is a breathtaking experience for the whale watching. The giant lobsters at the Shediac, it is in New Brunswick, and the construction of the giant lobster, it is actually considered as the world largest lobsters, and the statue is 11 meters long and 5 meters tall, and it weighs around 90 tons. And the sculpture was commissioned by the Shediac. It is a Rotary Club as a tribute to the town's lobster fishing industry. The sculpture took 3 years to complete at a cost of 170,000, and it attracts almost 500,000 visitors per year. St. John is again one of the bustling city in New Brunswick. There are some facts about New Brunswick. It is a home to the warmest saltwater beaches north of Virginia. McCain Foods Limited, the multi-billion-dollar company famous for its frozen French fry, is Canadian born. The McCain brothers' first French fry plant was created in 1957 in their hometown of the Florenceville, New Brunswick. The Minister Island is 500-acre maritime tidal island, a designated Canadian Heritage Time Capsule and Wildlife Management Park. Long occupied by Passamaquoddy First Nation, settled by the Loyalists seeking a new beginning. The summer estate of the entrepreneurial industrialist, artist, and Canadian nation builder, Sir William Van Home. Experience a drive across the ocean floor. Be amazed at historic architecture and period innovations. Explore cultural and artistic displays and enjoy recreational activities along the scenic waterfront. There is one another fact about New Brunswick. The first Miss Canada, Winifred Blair, was from St. John, New Brunswick, and she was crowned as Miss Canada in February 10, 1923. Where are the highest tides in the world? The Bay of Fundy. Of course. Tourism New Brunswick says that they rise at the rate of 1 meter, that is 3.3 feet per hour. The tides yield many edible treasures, among them mineral-rich sea salt and dulse, dried seaweed, which can be eaten as a snack or used to flavor soups. I hope you enjoyed this mini tour of Maritimes. Of course, it will take so many days to complete a full trip of the Maritimes, but I hope this short trip will really make your mind happy and make you go to visit Maritimes. Until then, I'll see you next month. Bye bye.
That was fantastic. When do we leave? I didn't realize that we make that many French fries. Kind of sad.
So on to the recipe, a little bit different to last time. We're going to start off with the cooking and end off with the discussion so that everyone has an opportunity to get started. So these are just the ingredients. They should have been included in the email, but in case you didn't have a chance to go over them, I've listed them on the screen. So just take a minute, read through, and if you need to go grab anything, go ahead and do that.
Helps if I unmute. The almond butter, that's not normally something I stock in my pantry. What would you suggest as an alternative, as a substitution?
You can always go for peanut butter if that's something you have in your pantry.
Okay. Yeah, I'm trying to stay away from that kind of stuff because I know the especially the commercial peanut butters are more sugar than peanut.
So ideally, I tend to go for more nut butters. Peanuts is a legume, not necessarily a nut. Or seeds butter as well, which would be, which would have more benefits than peanuts. I don't know, Dr. Ganguli, maybe you might want to say something about this.
Yeah, as you say, nut butters in general, they tend to be higher fat. But you'd kind of have to look at the nutrition label for the individuals, but in moderation, right? It's all good. But yeah, you're right. I think if you're substituting, you pretty much need to do a nut butter for a nut butter, otherwise you'll be in trouble. But the nice thing is it's easy to get natural peanut butters which are free of salt and free of sugar, because you're absolutely right. The big name brand ones are disasters. You don't want those, but it's not hard to get. Like even Farm Boy now has I think they certainly have an organic peanut butter. So just read the ingredients. You can get peanut butter where the only ingredients is peanuts. It's not difficult.
Actually, Bulk Barn also nowadays carries peanut butter. You can make your own peanut butter, and I believe there is an organic one as well, which you can just make your own peanut butter for whatever you are baking or just for your toast in the morning.
If I may.
Can you make almond butter?
Yes, you can make almond butter at home. But if you don't have the proper equipment, it can be a disaster. Almond butter as well is easily available.
If you have a food processor, you can actually make your own peanut butter and almond butter. So I've done it before. It's just, and it doesn't take that long. It's a bit of a process when you're first starting out to hitting the pulse. And then you just have to keep
May I ask something?
mixed up.
I think someone has a question. Go ahead.
I was going to ask, is the almond butter for the flavor of the almonds and for the consistency of the
So the
product, or like can you not use vegan butter and just throw in some almonds as you would the walnuts? Because vegan butter is not
you could, but if you're typically making
non-fat.
bar, then you would want something that's going to get all these ingredients together. And if you were to use vegan butter or any other type of fat, it generally will melt and will not, put it together. So for example, this morning, actually, I did make the bars, but I removed the maple syrup completely. I did use a little bit of blackstrap molasses because I love the ginger and that gingerbread flavor. So, but as you see, and I didn't put as much of the butters. So I made it almost like it's almost like a brittle, or you can use it like a granola, for your breakfast or on top of your yogurt, etc. And almond butter would make it more, it will give some protein, some other vitamins and minerals as well. So again, it's fortifying for that healthy treat. So that's the reason for the almond butter.
So I have a question. Instead of the pumpkin seeds, what else would you can consider?
You can consider sunflower seeds. You can consider hemp seeds if you like hemp, sesame seeds, coconut flakes. Those are many other options you can, or you can consider other nuts like hazelnuts, pecans. You can chop them up as well instead of the seeds. If
You put chia seeds in there instead?
You could, but I would then soak it and then put it in instead of putting it raw.
How long would you soak it for?
I would soak it at least for an hour or so in water. So I would take about a tablespoon of chia seeds and 4 tablespoons of water and let it just soak, and that will kind of soften the chia seed, and you can then use that in your bars.
Perfect, thank you.
Alternatively, also ground flax would be a great option.
Okay, if everyone's had a chance to get everything, I will start sharing the video. But before I do that, just a note, you will need to use your oven. So if you want to preheat that to 325 degrees Fahrenheit now, go ahead and do that, and then we'll get to the video.
Question, can you put any quinoa in there at all, or that wouldn't go good idea?
Yeah, you could put quinoa. In fact, instead of the rolled oats, you can use the puffed quinoa for your bars.
I'm gonna mix and match. I'm gonna create a little bit of everything.
But make sure that it is cooked quinoa and not, is it puffed quinoa, Dr. Curnew?
It's it looks like it says from Kirk. That's what I bought with Chad. It's organic quinoa, biologic. Here, is that
I have the exact one, and no, it's not cooked.
okay?
So yeah, so I wouldn't put it in this
Okay.
particular recipe.
Gotcha. Perfect.
Okay, I'm gonna start off the video. Just
I still can't get through that. I don't know. I can see everybody and hear everything, but that's about it.
okay, so I'm going to share the video again. If everyone can just mute their microphone so that there's less feedback. Of course, if you have a question, feel free to unmute and say it or put it in the chat. But if you don't have anything in terms of questions, just mute the mic so that we can all hear the video.
Okay, so I'm starting with all the wet ingredients first in the bowl. So I already have almond butter, I have maple syrup, I have blackstrap molasses, and ground ginger in my bowl. Maple syrup, blackstrap molasses, again, if you want to reduce the quantity, if you're counting calories or if you're cutting down on your sugar, you can certainly reduce the quantity that's mentioned in the recipe. But other than that, maple syrup and blackstrap molasses, really great benefits, rich in vitamins and minerals, polyphenols as well. So enjoy them in your cooking, in your healthy treats. Okay, so my wet ingredients are nicely mixed. You can use
Okay, so I'm just gonna give everyone a chance to mix their wet ingredients, and then in about a minute, I will continue to the next stage.
Does anybody have questions? So, Dr. Ganguli, do you want to comment on blackstrap molasses? Because as far as nutrition goes, I know that it's really high in calcium, magnesium, and many other polyphenols as well. But I also know that where IBS is concerned or any kind of digestive discomforts, having it too much can irritate the bowel. Any comments on that?
Yeah, as you say, I mean, maple syrup, blackstrap molasses, they're kind of enriched with other things. I'm not sure. Does blackstrap molasses? It probably contains fructose, eh? Does it?
Yes, it does.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure because it. Let's see. Now I don't know off top of my head, but I can check.
Yeah, because basically there's a group of people, like most people know about people being lactose intolerant, but there's another group of people who are fructose intolerant. And then there's a whole thing called FODMAPs, basically there's a group of people who are sensitive to those things. But I mean, I think you just have to admit that, I mean, if you're going to use a sweetener, you just try and pick the healthiest ones. And I would think the healthiest ones would be honey, maple syrup, blackstrap molasses, and the final one, which is actually ultra healthy, is something called dates. There's something called Mejdul dates in particular, but as you say, especially if it's made with whole grains, it's a compromise. There's actually some interesting data on artificial sweeteners, which implies that they themselves might have their own problems. So perhaps, moderate natural sweeteners is not a bad compromise.
Absolutely. So as far as fructose, it's about 25% fructose. But again, it says, just like you said, it has 5 times as much iron than a steak. 1.5 times as much calcium than dairy. So again, many different benefits. It's not something that we would have every day, but specifically gingerbread, it's a festive thing. If you're making anything like gingerbread cookies, blackstrap molasses is a must.
If you want to do healthy recipes, my general suggestion, and perhaps this is a little simple, but whenever I'm making a recipe, the first time I make it, I try and follow the directions, because then if I don't like the taste, I know it's because the recipe's bad. You know what I mean? If the first time I make it, I make 8 substitutions and it tastes awful, I have no idea if it was me or the recipe. But then once I've made it the first time and I like it, then, for example, and my wife does this quite often too, you can cut the amount of sweetener in half, because the interesting thing about salt and sweeteners is it's kind of a habitual thing. So you get used to a lower level of sweetness. So you might be able to, the second time you make it, once you get used to a fairly healthy diet, you can cut your amount of sweeteners in half.
Absolutely. And you can even take maybe a handful of, just like you said, dates, or this morning when I made my granola, and I decided to just put a little bit of apricots in it, and that also gives a beautiful sweet taste.
Now, before I forget, I don't know if you're interested, but if you're interested in healthy snacks, I actually have an ultra healthy banana oatmeal pancake recipe that I found on the internet. And when I make it, I put ground flaxseed and chia in it. Do you want me to shall I put the link into your chat box?
Oh, that would be great.
Yeah, because my wife is ultra fussy when it comes to anything sweet, and she continuously asks me for this. But like I say, the banana is the main sweetener in this banana oatmeal recipe. Okay, I'll dig it up and I'll pop it into the chat box for you. But you might want to use that at a future session, because it's, like I say, I put 2 tablespoons of ground flax and 1 tablespoon of ground chia in it. And it's phenomenal. It's actually phenomenally tasty and phenomenally healthy. So I'll pop it in.
Thank you, Dr. Ganguli.
Also,
That sounds delicious.
it does.
Oh, it's the only recipe my wife, like, I've made it like 5 or 6 times for her. She continuously asks for it. And like I say, she is so picky when it comes to sweet things, but she doesn't really consider it to be a sweet thing. The only tricky thing about it is you need oat flour. So we take oats and we put them in a spice grinder and we make our oat flour that way. But if you have no way to grind oats, I think you could grind them actually in a food processor too. If you had no way to grind oats, then you might have to buy oat flour. But oats actually drop your cholesterol, so everyone should be happy with that. But yeah, I'll dig it up and I'll pop it into your chat box for you.
And
Thank
that's
you, Dr. Ganguli.
suggestion, because if you want to replace in the granola bar here, if you want to replace that with mashed bananas, and I make these amazing mashed banana cookies, actually chocolate chip cookies. All it has is 4 ingredients: banana, oats, dark chocolate chips, and a little bit of sea salt, and they come out beautiful. Just something to remember is there is absolutely no preservatives, so you have to eat them quickly, or keep them in an airtight container in your refrigerator, and they generally last for about a week.
Can you actually send a link to that too as well? And I'm wondering if Chad or Ernie had any suggestions on some healthy treats as well, what they like. And one other question, I have something called President's Choice Fancy Molasses. Is that different than the molasses you talked about?
So I don't know that one. So the one I use is actual blackstrap. Does it say blackstrap molasses?
It says President's Choice Pure Fancy Molasses, no artificial flavors.
Really, really dark.
It's dark, yeah, it's black.
Yeah, so yeah, I think it must be the same thing.
What different types of molasses are there?
Well, you do get so the typical really authentic one would be the one that's a byproduct of refining of the sugar, right? So whatever remaining is that molasses. But I mean, depending on you'll look at different pricing, and you'll see the real authentic and the true version. Even the nutrition labels read differently. So sometimes there are additions of other like corn syrup and stuff like that to make it sweeter. So it really.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Which brand would you recommend, Sujata?
I really like the Everland brand, and it's not expensive at all. It's really, really great product. Everland is a great brand for many other different things that I've bought before.
And is it available at Whole Foods or Bulk Barn or Amazon?
So I personally bought it on Amazon myself. Some of the things that I picked up. But yes, it is available in Whole Foods. Or I'm pretty sure nowadays, even Fortinos, Longos, they all carry different kinds of brands.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. And Aditi, at one point when I share my recipe booklet for that one lucky winner, I would also like to show how, how I teach my clients to change a recipe. So just like Dr. Ganguli said, take the original recipe and make it exactly how it is, see what you like about it, don't like about it. But again, sometimes some of the recipes may have really refined products or processed products. So how can you change that is something I always teach my clients, and I can definitely share that in when you let me share my screen.
Yeah, for sure. I think everyone should have had an opportunity for those who are cooking live to mix the ingredients. So I'm going to go to the next stage of the video and then pause again, and we can resume the discussion after that. Again, just as a reminder, if you can mute your mic while I share the sound to prevent feedback, that would be great.
Spatula or a whisk to whisk it nicely and make sure that it's assimilated properly. Now I'm going to add all the dry ingredients. So in the dry ingredients, we have rolled oats. So I'm taking about a cup of rolled oats. Again, oats is one of the maritime local food. I'm also adding some walnuts, some pumpkin seeds, and I like to add a little bit of cinnamon, cloves, and also nutmeg. I love nutmeg, so if you like those sweet spices, another really great spice would be cardamom. If you have enjoyed cardamom before in your cooking. But I love to add sweet spices to some of my healthy treats. Spices also have amazing benefits. So all the dry
Okay, so again, I'm just going to pause it to give everyone an opportunity to do the steps that was indicated in the video. And again, any questions, comments, concerns, ideas, anything you would like to contribute to the discussion, feel free to either put it in the chat or unmute your mic and speak up.
So to me, is that any nut butter that you want to use, from almonds to peanut butter, and you're right, just all the gooey stuff. And I'm just mixing things away here, and so just try experiment. I just found some other stuff around, and I'm just throwing that in there too as well. So I'll see what everybody else does. Any suggestions for anybody else there? You have a lot of good chefs there. So what are recipes that people like for healthy treats? Any other suggestions?
I'm making overnight oats with a lot of these same ingredients, but I also add cardamom, ground cardamom.
So
tastes fantastic.
How do you make the what do you do?
Oh, the overnight oats is kind of a complicated recipe, but basically it's just rolled oats and soy milk, a bit of brown sugar, some nutmeg, and the cardamom. And then I add pistachio nuts and some raisins. You let it sit overnight and it's ready by morning, so very healthy.
When you say sit out, you put it in the fridge, leave it over. Where'd you put it?
Yep, in the fridge.
Does anybody else do overnight oats?
I don't do overnight oats, but I like doing baked oats. It kind of like, it's easy for on the go. It's like a healthier version of a granola bar. So actually very similar ingredients, except I use banana as the binder, and then that way I don't add any sugar because I use just a really ripe banana. And that's what I do with like oats, and then I add hemp and chia and berries. And if I make that, it usually lasts me for a week, and I can eat that every morning.
Nice. If anybody can just put some links or some other stuff in there, that would be great for all of us, or take some pictures, whatever. What about Chad? What do you what treats do you make? Anybody else? No? Okay, great. I'm just going.
Sorry about that. I just had to refill my coffee. I ran away for a minute, but I've got a no-bake vegan chocolate tart that I eat on a regular basis. So it's pretty healthy. It's got some dates and tofu and chocolate chips, dairy-free, and things like that. So that's I'm a fan of chocolate. So, but I'm definitely, I apologize. I didn't I had printed the recipe. I just didn't have time to do this, but I definitely will after we're offline and start playing around with this. It looks really good.
And, yeah, if you have a link or send in your recipes, we'll collect all that. Pictures, samples, just take pictures of stuff and send them in there. We'll just post them right over here. That's great.
Pat, have you ever tried chia pudding?
Yeah, so I just actually this morning made blueberry breakfast pudding. It was overnight oats and wild blueberries and absolutely beautiful color. I did add chia in it. So I posted the link over there. I made it with kefir. You can certainly make it with nut milk or regular milk if you're okay with the lactose component of it and the protein. Absolutely amazing.
Now, people don't put any preservatives, so can you put in the freezer, fridge? How do you keep them from going bad? And what type of jars do people use?
You definitely can put it in an airtight container. So something like this, it would give you about, I believe, about 8 servings or so, depending on how big you want the serving to be. So it would last for about a week in the refrigerator. What you could also do is actually cut it into bars and then freeze it and remove a bar and have it accordingly. You can remove it a night before perhaps, and then it's ready for breakfast if that's what you're planning.
Oh, thanks.
You can easily keep it for up to a month, or even I've had it sometimes. I give it to my daughter who's in university, and she says that they taste great even after a couple of months. So
one of the treat which I was enjoying, suggested by Sujata, and thanks Sujata, was with the apple. So you can with a clarified butter or the coconut oil on you cut apple into fine pieces and add some nutmeg and cinnamon. I was adding some cumin also, and then just cook it for like 3 or 4 minutes until the apples are softened, and then you can enjoy it with oatmeal. You can just top it on your oatmeal, because then when the apples are cooked and with the aroma and the taste of spice really enhance the taste of just having like oatmeal. The apple really adds a lot to it.
mm-hmm. And overnight oats is such a great breakfast, because specifically if you're really busy, hectic mornings, it's already in the refrigerator. You take it out, you stir it, and you enjoy it. It's absolutely amazing.
I have a question regarding clarified butter.
Yeah.
Somebody suggested that it was almost pure oxidized cholesterol to eat, and it's very bad for you. Can somebody comment on that?
I think Sujata has lots like complete answer to it.
Well, again, I'm a nutritionist, so a little bit different, thought process there. But clarified butter, if it is clarified properly and if you remove the lactose and the casein, first of all, if people who are, allergic or sensitive to lactose or casein, they can easily have it. It has amazing benefits such as CLAs, and CLAs, I believe, are known to shrink our fat cells as well. Also, butyric acid, which cleanses our gut. Things like healthy fat, which is it is short chain fatty acid, but it also has medium chain fatty acid, which is again, our liver uses it for energy. But other than that, I'm from India. My background is India, and right now, a good quality clarified butter is definitely healthy. That's what I believe in. I'm not sure Dr. Ganguli or Dr. Curnew, in terms of heart health or cardio health, what your thoughts are. Another really important part about ghee, which is clarified butter, is people tend to clarify the butter with which is not organic. I tend to always tell my clients, if you're using ghee or clarified butter, get a good quality organic butter and clarify it, because the lactose and the casein does get clarified, but if there are any fat soluble toxins trapped from whatever the cow may be grazing on, or they still remain in the ghee. So you have to be really careful when you buy the ghee as well. Read the ingredients, that it is pure, clarified butter and nothing else added to it.
The brand I like is at President Choice
May-
Organic one, because I have been using that since a long time. So I buy it whenever it is on sale. So the PC organic unsalted butter makes a very good clarified butter or ghee.
Or if you are looking for a really good quality clarified butter, to buy it already clarified, then one of the really great brand is St. Francis.
Dr. Ganguli, do you have an opinion on clarified butter?
May I ask something
Sure.
from Ms. Sujata? Regarding the clarified butter, the ghee, which is phenomenal to cook with. I didn't realize it was actually healthier than regular butter.
Wait a second.
Do you have any
Butter, so basically butter is a controversial food. I would not say that in my mind that there's no butter that's healthy. It's full of saturated fat, but you have to live your life. But so to me is that if you look at right now, the healthiest oil right now, it looks like it's extra virgin olive oil, but they're all calorie dense. Butter is a processed food, and all these things are processed, so I wouldn't call them health foods at all myself.
I'm going to chip in with Greg as well.
So no butter.
Obviously, it's if there's high cholesterol in this clarified butter, I'm going to defer to Greg, but cholesterol is generally something we try to avoid. I found a very interesting randomized study of a plant-based vegan diet versus the Mediterranean diet, and this was randomized, and in the Mediterranean group, the blood pressure went down, and it was probably because of the olive oil. So I think I'm with you, Greg. If you had to use an oil, I think virgin olive oil, which interestingly has a lot of vitamin E and a lot of other phytonutrients, is important. However, the key, qualifier on that is smoke point. So basically, what temperature are you cooking at? Because you don't want to heat an oil above its smoking point, because it just messes it up big time. So I just, whenever I need to check, I just go to Wikipedia and I just type cooking oil, and they have a big table of the smoking point of all the cooking oils. And then I just look at the recipe and I look at the temperature that the recipe asks for. And I can't remember what it is I made recently, but I baked something recently and I just cranked the temperature down a bit and I cooked it a bit longer so that I would be below the smoking point of that particular oil. But yeah, I think virgin olive oil, if you were to use an oil, it's looking pretty good for my 2 cents.
It's kind of interesting because there are randomized trials to talk about. One was actually a crossover where they had a keto diet versus a plant-based diet. This is at Librium's, about 20 patients crossed over NIH. People were actually admitted to a ward, and it showed that both diets lost some weight. You lost more diet with a plant-based diet. And the same thing when the randomized trial that you mentioned, if you want to lose weight, plants make it easier to lose weight because it's just less calories. Where the extra virgin olive oil is associated with lowering blood pressure. And then the other trial showed that anytime you eat any carbohydrate, you stimulate insulin. So if you're a diabetic, stimulating the pancreas is never a good thing, but if you're losing weight, that's a good thing. So I think the bottom line to me to take home message is avoid processed food as much as you possibly can, and then pick and choose different things from diet. And I like the fact that, making real wholesome food makes the most sense to me, and be attentive to calories. And again, if you want to lose weight, then plants make it easier to lose weight. Extra virgin olive oil does have a blood pressure lowering effect. The Predimet study, other nuts or olive oil, there was a health benefit. But again, it's important. Go ahead.
Well, thank you so much. I'm actually Greek. I'm actually Greek, so I've only been raised on olive oil. And thanks to Chad, I'm also vegan. And I use the vegan butter. I was asking Dr. Sujata, or Ms. Sujata specifically with the ghee, the clarified butter, because I worked with chefs for a big part of my life, and their go-to was clarified butter for everything. And I didn't realize that it was preferred by nutritionists as well. And I wanted to ask her what brands, or if she had any other information on that.
So I can put it in the chat in terms of the brand that I particularly like, and I can also share a recipe on how to make ghee, because you have to be really careful when you are making ghee. The whole idea is actually to burn off the casein and the lactose.
Sujata, is it possible if you can share email to Aditi, and Aditi can send it to the participant? The reason is, it will be there with them. I know you will be able to put on chat, but after the session,
Yeah, I can put everything. So I'll also go ahead and include some of the pudding recipe that we talked about and other things. Yeah.
Yeah. Dr. Curnew, what do you think about the coconut oil, extra virgin coconut oil?
So all these things are not health foods. So so butter, clarified butter, coconut oil, they're rich in calories. I like extra virgin olive oil because it has some antioxidant effects and it's been proven. But if you're trying to lose weight, I'm trying to be oil free. So I'm trying to not use any butters or margarines, or I'm trying to be attentive to calories as much as I can. I think, so desserts are not a health food, but they're a necessity of life for many of us because of our sweet tooths and things of that nature as well. So I don't want people to walk away from it that say a clarified butter or any butter is good for you. It's not. Coconut oil is not a good, healthy food for you.
Yeah, I'm going to chip in with Dr. Curnew there as well. They actually did a randomized study where they took a group of people and they fed them different diets for 4 weeks. And it was basically red meat versus white meat, which is chicken, versus a plant-based meat. And once again, the saturated fat was a problem, and it changed blood lipids and it changed LDL. So like about 2-3 years ago, coconut oil, there was a whole craze. It became a religion. It was considered healthy, but it's 70% saturated fat. So to be honest, I'm with Dr. Curnew on that. It's unfortunately I don't consider it healthy because of the saturated fat. And there are alternatives. As he said, it looks like if you're going to use oil, virgin is the way to go. But often you can minimize or avoid the oil, because oil has twice as many calories as carbs or protein. So if weight loss is a goal, it's the easy way to do it.
I'm trying to get my fats from nuts as much as I can, but limited amounts, because these are been shown to be healthier food. So I like this idea of having a nut butter, for instance. It has some health benefits, but it's rich in calories. So you gotta be careful about that. Calories are important.
Yeah, to that point, 2 things. Number one, I use a President's Choice roasted garlic olive oil exclusively. I just love it. I love garlic and everything. Thank God I'm married for 33 years. So that's really good. But to that point about trying to eliminate oil, which I'm trying to do, I would be really interested future suggestions of how to actually, for lack of a better term, fry or cook, or get something that is like, even if you're roasting vegetables, they suggest drizzling olive oil. So how do you get the crunch without the oil? So just a thought for future recipes.
So I have a beautiful meal plan that I've created for some of my clients, which is completely oil free. So it really depends on, if you're interested, I can certainly give, Aditi has my contact number and we can chat about that, Laurie, if you're interested.
Yeah, that would be great. Really trying to focus on reducing calories where I can. And certainly eliminating oils is a good place. Like, I know you need some fat, and the rule of thumb of 1 tablespoon per day or whatever. But still, it's I've always ever cooked fried with oil or butter back in the day. So it's the idea of how do you get even a good roasted vegetable without using either olive oil or the infamous cooking sprays, right? So yeah, always eager to find new techniques that are healthier as well as tasty.
Absolutely.
So just to touch on that briefly, Greg, I actually just emailed you a list of possible topics you might want to use for future sessions like this. And I included a session on how to cook with no oil. There's a brief YouTube about how to fry with no oil. I just put it in the chat box for everyone. It's actually from my website where I've got, for example, I've got information on how to make oil-free hummus as well. I'll put the link to that. I'll put a link to my page in that. But basically, you just need to find a group where that's basically their religion, if you'll excuse the phrase. There's a guy called Dr. Esselstyn who reverses heart disease with an oil-free diet. And so there are Facebook groups and recipes that he has. And so Forks Over Knives is one website with hundreds of recipes.
We're gonna work that core.
Which is all oil-free. So that's one place that has it. And then if you just Google TC Campbell Nutrition, he will have oil-free recipes as well. So there are groups that are really into this, and so they have the recipes. So admittedly, the taste isn't, oil tastes wonderful. I mean, let's be honest here. So you just have to get a little used to the less oily taste.
What do you think about flax oil, Dr. Curnew, Dr. Ganguli?
Oh, that is very temperature sensitive.
Yes, I mean, you should never have it. You should never.
Well, there's two things with flax oil. One is it's very temperature sensitive. You can't heat it, period. Two, there are amazing health benefits from flaxseed, by which I mean randomized study, 37 days, it slows the rate of growth of breast cancer. Randomized study in men with prostate cancer, it drops their PSA. It's not in the flax oil. If you use the oil, you don't get that benefit. It's in something called lignans, and the lignans are lost when you make the oil. So I personally think that flax seed, 2 tablespoons a day, is absolutely essential to anyone's diet if you have breasts or a prostate, which I think covers almost everyone. So yeah, so I try, yeah. So it's part of my breakfast recipe on my website, which is steel cut oats, chia, flaxseed, and frozen blueberries. So like I say, I don't quite understand why one would actually use the oil, because there are other oils, but that's my 2 cents.
Well, I don't think we should use little oils as possible. So the only oil I see right now is extra virgin olive oil, and use real food. You eat flax, eat nuts, eat berries, but don't use oil.
Dr. Curnew, which is your favorite or preferable olive oil, extra virgin olive oil?
I'm really not a believer in oils in general. They're rich in calories. But the recent randomized trial compared a Mediterranean diet compared to a vegetarian diet and showed that there was a blood pressure lowering effect of about 5 millimeters of mercury. So that means that there's some properties of extra virgin olive oil. So I think, you just want the things that are cold pressed, relatively new and fresh, no preserves, and eaten quite quickly. But for most of us, we're trying to lose weight.
True.
And you're trying to lose weight, all oils make you gain weight. And so get away from oils.
Yes.
Get away from calories. Just eat a little bit of flax, eat a little bit of nuts, have a few olives. And so when I have a salad, I don't put oil in my dressing. I just use balsamic vinegar.
The final curveball in this is ironic, bizarrely enough, olive oil forgery is a huge problem. Apparently there are huge companies, because they save tons of money, they call it olive oil and it isn't olive oil. So I have a bit of a bias. What's it called? Costco. The Costco buyers are very, very careful.
Yes.
And so Costco really checks out their products. But if you're not careful, if you get the cheapest olive oil and probably even the cheapest virgin olive oil somewhere, it's quite possible that it's a forgery, which is actually heartbreaking, but there you go.
I just did a food science project on olive oil, and the fella that I know that imports it, he actually has to fly to Italy and follows the olives through the process to make sure that he gets what he pays for. And he said himself that the Kirkland brand organic is the only one that you can trust in North America.
Thank you.
Acropolis is apparently a really good one as well. And again, that's from some of the health shows that I've attended. But it's quite expensive. So I personally go for the Kirkland one as well. Now, what do you think about cooking with olive oil? I know that you personally don't like oil, Dr. Curnew, but if somebody were to use a little bit of oil, can olive oil be used at a high temperature? I personally prefer it at a medium temperature, but what's your thought on that?
I think anytime you process something like this, you run the risk. And I'm encouraging people to, when oils is not a health food. It, it's calorie dense, and 90% of the world's trying to lose weight right now. So why are you giving them foods that make you gain weight? Tastes good.
Can I just go back to the flax and chia seeds? Is that ground or is that actually full seed? Because I've heard that just
No, that's a great point, and it has to be ground.
Okay,
Absolutely
that's what I
has to
thought.
be ground. If you eat unground flaxseed, they end up in the toilet. It's that simple. The coating for the flaxseed, you cannot digest it. So 2 tablespoons of ground flaxseed every day. That is the dose that in 37 days in a randomized study slowed the rate of growth of breast cancer. So now chia is slightly controversial, but only slightly, because there is a randomized study of chia, of ground versus non-ground chia. And then they measured people's omega-3 blood levels after taking the two. The omega-3 levels are higher with the ground chia than the non-ground chia. So if omega-3 is something that matters to you, you should have ground chia as well. So what I do at breakfast is it's it's for 2 of us, 2 tablespoons of flaxseed, 1 tablespoon of chia in the spice grinder, buzz for 10 seconds, add, eat. That's it.
Kind of very interesting where we are with omega-3s right now, because the story's gotten really complicated. There are 4 randomized controlled trials that prevent heart attacks, and these are actually with very high doses of pure EPA. You can't get that from vegetable sources of omega-3s, because the conversion rate is only about 3 to 5%. And number 2 is that DHA negates the benefit of EPA. And that goes against many people's belief, but all these supplements that you buy, DHA and EPA, are totally worthless, at least for the heart. And you need an EPA level, 150 micrograms, whatever the unit is, and that really involves pure EPA. And if you take DHA on top of that, you lose that benefit. So, and DHA is supposed to be good for the brain and the retina. That's probably better early in life, but EPA is good for the heart, and you can only get that by pharmaceutical grade pure EPA right now, which is a fish source. That final chapter is not written right now, but I'm really quite impressed when you have 4 randomized trials showing this, and that DHA makes it worse. Dr. Ganguli, what's your thoughts about where EPA DHA fits in vegetable sources right now?
Well, as I think you've pretty strongly hinted, Greg, it's a moving target. So I'll be honest, I don't try and use it pharmacologically like that, at least not for myself. I just try and kind of take lower doses, because you became enthusiastic about this, I think 1 or 2 years ago, but even in that time, the data has changed somewhat. So as you say, I think it's with some cutting edge science, one has to really wait for it to stabilize until one really knows. So in the meantime, I just defer to you.
Yeah. So right now is that there's a trial called Strength, which is 15,000 patients, which is 4,000 milligrams of DH and EPA pharmaceutical grade, which was negative despite a higher EPA level. So I think right now is that I'm trying to get to real food. So I think I love chia, flax, and things of that nature, but you're not going to get the health benefits of omega-3s at this point in time. You'll get other benefits, and for most of us, just be attentive to you know, calories that we're eating and how to exercise more. And I don't know about you, I'm always hungry, and so I'm trying to figure ways to be less hungry. And oils don't make me less hungry.
More fiber.
Yeah. So I'm a big believer of soups and things of nature. So let's go back to the. I just put my my thing in the oven there. What everybody else do? Am I supposed to put in the oven yet?
Yeah, mine's in the oven, but we can play to like the next part. And I think the video also includes some information on substitutions and stuff. So I'll play that in entirety. Does anyone have any questions before I start that? Okay, and I'll play.
Ingredients and the wet ingredients are nicely mixed. You can even use your hands to mix this up. Don't forget to add your salt as well. I like to cook with a good quality sea salt. One of my favorite is real salt. If you haven't tried that, really great salt, really rich in minerals. Now I'm going to take my prepared pan right over here. You may have to use your hands to press it down nicely. I like to wet my fingers and then press it down. So that's the next step. Your oven, I'm sure, is preheated by now at about 325 degrees Fahrenheit. So let's put in all this goodness in the pan. All right, so I'm gonna wet my hands and come back and make sure, press it nicely so it can go in the oven for about anywhere from 15 to 18 minutes, really depends on your oven. All right, here we go. So it's nicely pressed into the prepared pan. This is gonna go into the oven now at 325 for about 15 to 18 minutes. And then we're going to take it out, cool it down before we cut it. So as the oatmeal bars are baking in the oven, I just wanted to talk about some of the products that I use in my kitchen. It's not so much about the brands you're using, but what I want to make sure that if you are gluten-free for any reason or do not do gluten because of perhaps celiac or you have gluten intolerance, make sure when you buy the oats, the rolled oats, it actually says gluten-free because there could be some traces of gluten and you want to be careful where gluten-free diet is concerned. As far as maple syrup, I like to use the grade 3 maple syrup, really high in vitamins, minerals, polyphenols, so great qualities to it. As far as salt is concerned, I like to use real salt by Redmond's. I find it's really rich in minerals as well. Of course, you can get really good quality sea salt out there. Other than that, if you want to make these bars nut-free, you certainly can do that. Instead of almond butter, you can replace it with seed butter. So pumpkin seed butter or sunflower seed butter. You can replace walnuts with sunflower seeds. Other additions could be sesame seeds. You can also add a little bit of coconut to it. I like to add a little bit of chocolate as well. You can just sprinkle some chocolate on top and then bake it. That would be really a great addition. Little bit of vanilla. If you like vanilla and not want to do some of the spices that I mentioned in the recipe, that also is possible. So make it your own. This is something I created in my kitchen, but I'm pretty sure that you will come up with your own creations. My kitchen is smelling absolutely delicious. So here are the oatmeal bars. They are baked. Now I'm gonna just slightly cool them and then cool them for about 20 minutes or so, and then put them in the refrigerator for an hour before I cut them. Okay, and they stay really well in an airtight container, and you can keep it for about a week and enjoy them. So the oatmeal bars were in the refrigerator for about an hour, cooling, and now they're ready to be cut. So I'm going to cut them into thin slices, into thin bars. It should give you about 8 servings as per the recipe. So depending on how many servings you are planning to make into your own kitchen. I like to store them in an airtight container. They stay beautiful in the refrigerator if you want to store them in the refrigerator, unless they're going to get eaten today. So I hope you enjoy them in your kitchen. Okay, so I'm going to show you the finished product. So right here you go. So that's how I like to cut them in thin little bars. If you're using less maple syrup or if you're using less blackstrap molasses, they may almost look like brittles as well. So even if they don't cut it in perfect squares or bars, that's okay. They taste amazing. So I hope you enjoy them in your kitchen.
Thank you, Sujata.
Wonderful.
I'm sure you're smelling the ginger and the nutmeg and cardamom. If Ernie, if you're using cardamom in your bars. So this morning, like I said, I did not put any maple syrup. I did put a tad bit of blackstrap molasses just because there's ginger in it as well. So mine did not come out the bar, but if you can see, I just kind of cut them into small pieces, and I'm going to use it as a granola on top of my yogurt tomorrow, or maybe with some oat milk and have it with some berries or something. So you can do that as well.
Fantastic. So you can see many ways of preparing this, and I'll have to get put everything in the fridge and some glass jars and things. Always things that come up that people, what about tea or coffee? Does anybody have a preference to that, and what are the benefits or not? I'll go to Dr. Ganguli first. What's your thoughts about tea or coffee to have your snack there? And what would you put in your tea or coffee?
At least you know who to go to when you want an opinion. Okay, so basically there are multiple huge studies about kind of tea and coffee, and they're not bad, but there's something that is probably, yeah, it's pretty clearly healthier, and that's green tea. So I used to have English tea all the time because I grew up in England. But I had a student write a kind of a summary of some of the data on green tea. For example, there's some great data on green tea about cancer and stuff. I've got a page on my website that kind of summarizes that. So I basically weaned myself to have green tea, and what I have now is a combination of organic green tea leaves and something called matcha. So matcha is actually powder that is actually powdered green tea leaves. And Costco actually has cans of it that are way cheaper than anyone else's. The important thing about green tea, and it's actually on the webpage, I'll pop it in for you, is the processing of green tea leaves does not include washing, which is a little bizarre. What am I saying? What I'm saying is that if you get non-organic green tea, it's full of pesticides, sorry, and they're not your friend. So basically for green tea, you probably want to get it organic. But like I say, green tea has multiple specific health benefits, but you're not going to hurt yourself with tea or coffee. There could be slight benefits, but forgive me for being a party pooper. If you add milk to it, you lose a lot of the benefits. So if you're going to have it, you should probably have black tea or black coffee. Sorry, I feel like a party pooper at this point, so I'll quit.
What about putting some nut milk in any of your coffee?
Oh, absolutely. That's what I mean. Any nut milk or oat milk or, yeah.
Sometimes the truth hurts.
Go ahead.
So no oat milk, no almond milk, no milk.
No, nut milks, having nut milks are good.
Yeah, almond milk is fine. Oat milk is fine. It's just if it came out of a cow, it's not so healthy. But if it came out of a plant, it's fine. So those milks are fine.
Yes,
I'm just saying not cow's milk. Yeah.
Now
of course.
that's a controversial area. Why do you say cow's milk is unhealthy?
Okay, so there's
Because it's
a
so fat.
meta-analysis is the highest level of evidence that we have in medicine. So there are meta-analyses that show that the people who have high dairy intake, the risk of prostate cancer is increased 40%. Then there are separate meta-analyses of calcium intake that show that people who have a high calcium intake, the risk of prostate cancer is 40% increase. So if you have a prostate, I'm not sure cow's milk is your friend. If you so that's males. If you don't have a prostate and you're female, okay, then I agree with you, Greg. It's what I call gray, or if you want to use the traffic lights thing, it's kind of orange. It does have saturated, but whatever. I mean, this is a continuum, and we don't have to be total zealots. So probably a bit of skim milk, okay, fine. But like I say, unfortunately, the prostate cancer thing makes me nervous for men.
And do you feel soy is being put to rest right now? There's no increased risk of breast cancer with soy products?
Yes, the breast cancer issue has clearly been put to rest because they've actually looked at women with breast cancer, and the ones who take large amounts of soy survive longer. So that is completely put to rest. The only tiny little asterisk I would put on it is if you're a man, don't have 10 portions of soy a day. That's all I would say. Don't have ridiculous quantities of soy. The final qualification I would put, and this is a general principle, which I think is basically the less processed, the better. So there's a continuum with soy. The least processed is called edamame. That's the beans. Next least processed is called tempeh. It looks like a block of something, but you can actually see the beans in it. More processed than that is the actual tofu. So if you can use tempeh instead of tofu, it's a step in the right direction. And if you can throw the edamame beans, and we just buy frozen edamame beans at Goodness Me. So it's a continuum. But once again, you don't have to go 100% on everything. You have to decide your own goals. So any movement in the right direction is movement in the right direction. So I don't want to discourage anyone.
Now, why do you think too much soy is bad for males? What was your concern about that?
Okay, so this is called, soy is an estrogen partial agonist. So what that means is if you have a bunch of estrogen in your body, it basically turns down the estrogen stimulation. But if you don't have much estrogen in your body, it's the equivalent of adding some estrogen. That's what a partial agonist is. And apparently, way back in time, there were a couple of guys who were having like 15 portions of soy a day, and they grew boobs, whatever. But they were having truly ridiculous amounts of soy. So, as long as you're having like a reasonable number of portions, you're just fine.
So you can see that. Anybody else have an opinion on this at all? What about if you're going to have coffee, instant versus brewed coffee? Do you have a preference on that?
I would go for, I think, brewed. Again, less processed, maybe. That would be the key, I guess. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's turning out that coffee and caffeine are becoming good for chronic diseases such as Parkinson's and diabetes. So I think we're evolving. The whole problem with the food science, it's based on the worst quality information, observational data, and it's hard to get good randomized data sets in one variable. So we learn in pieces, and I think that the biggest message to me is avoiding processed foods. By large, and being attentive to calories, and being attentive to portion control. Anytime you cook something, you can change the properties to that, and you can mention about what is so eating raw healthy food as much as you can is a good thing. and for many of us, just eating less of most things is probably the best thing. So if I had to pick a #1 priority for everybody, you have some amount of calories to eat, then you die. Eat them quickly or save up over time. I'm exaggerating a little bit, but you know, there are health benefits to oils. But the problem is that the extra weight that you gain for many of us outweighs the health benefits. And issue about calcium and prostate cancer and dairy products, it's association data. Is it true or not? It's a good chance. So I've decreased, you know, my calcium intake. Now we also learned from the UK study, I forget the actual acronym, but vegetarians have more bone fractures compared to meat eaters. And so there's always a trade-off. Vegetarians tend to be skinnier, healthier, live longer, but they do a lot of healthier benefits too as well. Vegetarians tend to exercise more compared to the average North American. And we know that you know, bone density, exercise is extremely important for your bone health. So to me, I'm always learning all the time. I wish I had all the answers. You know, is vitamin D a good thing or a bad thing? There's pros and cons about this. I'll get Dr. Ganguli to give his opinion on vitamin D at this stage and B12. You have any thoughts about that you want to share?
You brought up two great points, Greg. So firstly, you are right. There is some data that vegans do have to watch their bone density. And the second thing is, and I'll admit that this is not incredibly strong, but overall, I think it's important. They did a randomized study in Spain of 79 people who were admitted to hospital who had COVID, and they randomized them to rapid vitamin D supplementation versus not. 79 people with COVID in hospital. The group that didn't get vitamin D, 50% of them, half of them end up in the intensive care unit. The group of them who did get vitamin D, 2%, 2 out of 100 ended up in the intensive care unit. The difference of 2% versus 50% is huge. Now, that is a single study. It's not a large study, but given that obviously we're in the middle of a COVID thing, I think it's very important if you want to go plant-based, that you get your vitamin D level checked to see that it's not low. Now, annoyingly, the government, the OHIP charges people for vitamin D levels. It's $37 approximately. I personally think it's the best $37 you could spend on your health. But because I see people in a hospital, I get to do it for free. So I check vitamin D levels like crazy. I mean, if someone comes to me for a screening colonoscopy, they get a vitamin D level checked. In my experience, 30 to 50% of Canadians are low in vitamin D. And some of them, I'm not talking like 20% below the lower limit of normal. I'm talking less than half normal, less than a third normal. Some of them have levels less than 25% of the lower limit of normal. So like I say, but the thing is, and because of the bone angle on vitamin D, which everyone agrees on, just pay, next time you're with your GP, pay your $37, get your vitamin D level checked. Just so you know, if you're replacing with vitamin D or you're put on vitamin D, it takes 4 to 6 months before your blood level reflects what you're taking. So if your family doc tells you your vitamin D's level half of what it should be, you're going to have to take replacement and wait closer to 6 months to recheck it. You don't want to recheck it a month later. You're just wasting money. And the smartest time of year, if you were going to check your vitamin D level to do, it's in spring, because we're in Canada and we've been inside all winter. So if your vitamin density, so, you know, follow your doctor's guidance on that. I personally need 4,000 units a day for me to be normal because I follow my level closely. But yeah, none of this megadose stuff, that's dangerous.
Yeah,
So
for the record, if you're diagnosed with low vitamin D, it's free to recheck.
So I just want to put a word of caution right now, is that one of the best ways to get vitamin D in good weather is to be out in the sun for you know, be outside the hours of noon and 2 o'clock, so you can get a lot of vitamin D and that mechanism on the right days. Keep your arms and legs available for sunlight. The largest trial called Vital recently of 2,000 milligrams of vitamin D is a total bust and total waste. There are also negative vitamin D studies for just about everything right now. Vitamin D was the wonder drug for osteoporosis. It's where it's going to end up in the day, I don't know right now. So I think it's reasonable to look at your vitamin D level. What to do about that is unclear. There's actually some negative data with randomization to vitamin D with COVID as well. So we're still learning. An important vitamin. It's involved in 25 different parts of your body, but when you actually randomize to good doses and proper done studies, so far most of them being negative right now. So I'm going to try to get my vitamin D as much as I can through sunlight, exercise, and being outside as much as I can. And I still have an open mind on this, but I've been quite disappointed in vitamin E, beta carotene, vitamin C. They all through went randomization, and they were wonder vitamins. Now vitamin D is sort of starting to fall apart. But saying that, vitamin D is still important where it fits in. I truly have a lot to learn still. Any other thoughts from anybody else? So when you say a vitamin D level, you want to be in the top third of vitamin D level? I think you're telling me, Dr. Ganguli, is that right?
May I ask?
Yeah.
Well, you just want to be in the normal range.
And the other interesting thing, by the
Dr.
way,
Ganguli, may I ask a question?
before I forget as well, is that iron is actually coming into play right now. Maybe you need actually higher iron levels than we first anticipated. So think about that too as well. Go ahead, your turn. Go ahead.
Whose turn?
Your turn. I'm sorry.
Is it my turn?
Yeah.
Oh, hello. Dr. Ganguli, I have a quick question for you. If you feel like and this is the first I heard that you could get the vitamin D specifically tested through your doctor, so I appreciate that information very much. And I most recently actually had a colonoscopy in Toronto at St. Mike's, but and they never once mentioned to have that test there. So I will have my vitamin D checked, but just off the top of your head, if I'm taking vitamin D supplements, how much should I right now? Is 2,000 units a day too much?
See, this is where it's very hard to know how much anybody needs, because it all boils down to how much time, as Greg said, you spend in the sun. I have met Canadians who don't need any vitamin D, so it's a bit of a shot in the dark, really. But the bottom line is if you're going to have your level checked, you need to have been on a stable dose for the previous 4 to 6 months. Some people don't need to supplement at all. The funny thing is with diet, it's incredibly hard to get it in diet. Milk is supplemented with vitamin D, and if you do a bunch of reading, mushrooms have some vitamin D, but bizarrely enough, they need the sun to make it as well. So it's incredibly hard to tell a person what dose they need unless you've seen their blood level. But I don't think 2,000 units will hurt anyone. But like I say, you need to be on a stable dose, and that's why I think you need to check the levels, because they vary incredibly widely.
I will. Thank you so much for this information. I do take, I fluctuate between 1,000 and 2,000 doses of vitamin D a day. I actually frequently walk my dog, so I am out walking about throughout the day, but I will check that out. Thank you so much.
Spend more time walking your dog too.
Mm-hmm. Any thoughts on rooibos tea, Dr. Ganguli?
Sorry, say the question again. I couldn't hear you.
Rooibos tea.
I've tried it. I haven't done a specific. I haven't specifically looked at. Yeah, rooibos. I just think of it as sticks, but it tastes quite nice and it's caffeine free. But I haven't done a specific literature search on the health benefits of rooibos tea. But it's a nice caffeine free one. That's all I can say. But that's not a medical answer because I haven't researched it, I'm afraid. Have you read anything about it?
Yeah, so as far as nutrition is concerned, it's really, really high in antioxidants, so that's great. And if somebody is looking for that caffeine free, that would be a really nice black tea. You can make a chai out of it by adding cardamom and cinnamon and whatever. So that could be a nice option as well if you're looking for caffeine-free, a really good tea.
No, caffeine's got a bad rep. Caffeine's not such a bad food anymore. Okay, so is that if you have chronic disease, so be careful about. But I like this idea about different types of teas and stuff like that. Tell me about this tea one more time. What's it called again? Could you post it that as well?
Yeah, it is called rooibos, and I'll put it in the chat. And the only reason, I have nothing against caffeine myself, but the only reason I say that, I do get clients who specifically want something caffeine free. So rooibos is a really great choice, or any other herbal teas, I would say, but rooibos or white tea as well would be good. But other than that, green tea, I mean, green tea, matcha tea is amazing. Yeah.
So I just wonder, anybody else like Chad or Ernie or anybody else or Dee Dee, what type of beverages do you like to drink and stuff like that? Give us some, anything else there you want to throw in? Anybody else?
My wife is a coffee snob, so I make Italian espresso.
I love espresso.
Yeah, what's the mean espresso and regular coffee? What's the difference there?
Espresso is very concentrated in the process. What you make it, you use a lot more coffee to make a very small amount, so it's just a burst of flavor. Can't take too much. You wouldn't want to take too much, but what you do get, you really cherish. It's almost like a Japanese tea ceremony around our house to have an espresso. The machine's got to be right. The barometric pressure has to be right. No, I'm kidding. So.
If I may just throw something in there.
It is an art, though, to make an espresso.
Absolutely. Go ahead there, Chad.
I was just going to say, Dr. Shaw in Toronto, he works out of Toronto General Hospital. He's a liver specialist, and he actually really promotes black coffee as a liver cleanser. And supposedly there's been quite a few studies. I don't have them handy here or anything, but there's been several studies that black coffee actually assists in cleansing the liver.
Actually, that's fatty liver. There is some data that it's good for fatty liver, which is one of the most common forms of liver disease. So yeah, it's about the only good piece of news they have for people with fatty liver is getting them to drink a lot of coffee. You're right.
And what percentage of fatty liver is non-weight effects? Or
oh yeah, I just actually gave a talk on guidelines on that. Give me a sec. I think a quarter of fatty liver is normal if people with normal weight. Was that your question, Greg?
Yeah. So I'm just trying to think, what's the contribution to fatty liver? So to me, the vast majority is related to just being overweight, and it's interesting is when you get fat in your liver, your pancreas doesn't work as well. And one of the theories is that it's the fat in the liver that's harmful in diabetes. It causes a whole bunch of metabolic disturbances. What's your thoughts about that?
Yeah, they just actually published guidelines on lifestyle and fatty liver. And basically, stick up your hand if this is not a familiar concept to you. There's something called the canary in the coal mine. Back in the days when there were dangerous gases in coal mines, they used to take a canary down because it would breathe very quickly. And if it fell over, they knew that there were probably poisonous gases and the men had to get out before they died. So fatty liver is basically a canary in the coal mine for a whole bunch of things, including heart disease, diabetes, obstructive sleep apnea. Basically, if you were to take 100 people with whatever, type 2 diabetes with and without fatty liver, the ones who have fatty liver, their diabetes will be worse. So it's basically in many diseases, including cardiovascular disease, it's a marker of a negative outcome. So at the risk of making people laugh, because I'm actually a gastroenterologist, the importance of fatty liver might not be the liver. The importance of fatty liver is probably that it's a marker that you're at high metabolic risk of vascular, diabetic, and other complications, and that you need to be aggressively treated. And actually, while we're talking about fatty liver, fructose is the really scary thing. Fructose, fruit sugar, high fructose corn syrup, agave syrup, those go straight to your liver and make it fatty. So if you have a fatty liver, not that I'd suggest you look to see because you'll probably end up depressed, you want to avoid fructose and fruit sugar like crazy. So that means pop. Like regular pop is sweetened with high fructose corn syrup, and that is a particular culprit for fatty liver.
So, Dr. Ganguli, agave nectar is a big no-no, that means?
Because it's very high in fructose. I think agave nectar actually has a higher level of fructose than high fructose corn syrup. So if fatty liver is something that you want to avoid, yes. The problem with fructose is it kind of tricks your body, and your body doesn't see it as sugar. Now, if you know for a fact that you don't have a fatty liver, but to be honest, so many people are at risk. Like literally 25% of people in the world have a fatty liver. So that actually, I think, puts it beyond the level of an epidemic, really, you know? So yeah, unfortunately, fructose, and I just want to emphasize Dr. Curnew's point as well. Processed food is just downright bad for you. It really is. It basically, it takes the good things out of the food, but also, unfortunately, fructose, I can't think of a good, you know, you just want to be careful with the quantities at the very least.
Okay, thank you.
Where do you feel alcohol fits into this equation?
I know that there are studies that show that people who have a moderate alcohol intake live longer, but I'm just going to be honest with you. I obviously, because I deal with liver disease, I see people who are alcoholics, and they say up to 1 in 10 people in our society is directly or indirectly affected by alcohol. Alcohol, like, you know, if you go to the USDA, like if you go to all of the recommendations, they tell you how much vitamin A you need, how many vitamin B you need, how much this you need. There is no recommended daily intake for alcohol. That's because it's not nutritionally necessary. So I call me a Puritan, whatever. I mean, in the real world, if it's not, probably moderation is okay. But for breast cancer, not only does alcohol correlate with the risk of breast cancer, but there is no threshold dose. That means that there is no dose of alcohol intake below which the risk of breast cancer is not increased. So I would just encourage people to be careful, very careful, very, very careful. But sorry, I'm a Puritan.
Well, actually, alcohol's changed. At one time, alcohol wasn't recommended for pregnant women. If it's not good for pregnant women, why is it good for the rest of us? So to me, alcohol, again, it's one of those processed foods, if you want to go along those routes there. It's a type 1 carcinogen. It means it causes cancer, and there's no safe level. So to me is that if you think cyanide and mercury are safe, then by all means alcohol, it falls in that same category. So to me, you drink alcohol because you enjoy it. There's nothing good about sugar. It just tastes good. And you mentioned fructose or any sugar. So to me is that none of us are saints, and we have to enjoy life, but there's no health benefit to alcohol at this stage. A disease I see quite commonly, the most common rhythm disturbance is atrial fibrillation. And there's a direct relationship. There's no safe amount of alcohol for atrial fibrillation as well. And I think is that, so to me is that I think we're learning all the time. So what I'm learning from this is that people want this magic food. There is no magic food. It's just basically, you know, Mother Nature's non-processing of food, and the way we cook it, we change the properties of food. We got to be careful about this. So I'm trying to be as healthy as I can, and eat as little as I possibly can, because I just eat too much.
Dr. Ganguli, there are so many people here in North America likes those breezers, which they get in LCBO, especially I'm talking about Canada. So it's like breezers. So I think if someone has, you know, diabetes, and if person is having these breezers, would you say something about it? How much does it affect the diabetes? I know somebody that's why I'm just...
I don't understand the word you're saying. Breezer?
Yeah, you get like breezers, like, you know, with the, you know, vodka breezers and all, which you get in LCBO. It's like a bottled breezers for Smirnoff and all those.
Oh, you mean the hard lemonade?
It's actually, you know, somewhat, it is, you know, you get it in 6 packs. So it is like...
Oh, I see. Well, here's a general principle. So the general principle that I find, because I'm sure each of us have things that we like that are probably not good for us. I just try to substitute.
Yeah.
I try to find a healthier equivalent that I can substitute, you know, and I
True.
pick my battles. So like I say, I'll be honest, I used to have one Diet Coke every day with my lunch, but that stuff's scary. So now I have a kombucha instead. I've been able to flip to a substitute, you know, so I think often for people, if you can just learn to substitute, you know, and let's, and forgive me, this was probably bordering on harsh here, but you know, if you find that you need alcohol to be yourself, that's probably a warning sign.
Yeah.
We should, you know, hopefully we don't need something to be ourselves, and whatever. Like I say, I see people, there are people who drink alcohol responsibly and it doesn't get them into trouble, but I see a lot of alcoholics and I don't think any of them intended to be. So yeah, it's tricky, but whatever. Like I say, this is not a religion, you know,
Yeah.
but like I say, I found kombucha is a good
I
substitute.
I agree with you. May I ask a question, Dr. Ganguli? So what about Perrier? Is there a limit as to how much you can drink of it? Like, I don't drink any pop, but I might be overdoing it with sparkling water, specifically, not because of the name brand, just because it's convenient, the Perrier.
Well, we're talking about the blue pill or the red pill here, but once you get me going, well, A, look at the side of the bottle and see if there's sodium in it, because obviously sodium is a bit of a problem if it's high in sodium. B, I try to avoid what I call toxins. Toxins are things that make you sick. There's a whole class of things called endocrine modifiers. These are things that modify our hormones. A lot of has been published on this. And so based on the published data, they just reviewed all of the published data and they tried to say, what are the healthcare costs of endocrine modifiers in North America or Europe? 2% of the US economy, that's how much endocrine modifiers, the health consequences are equivalent to 2% of the US economy. What am I talking about? Obesity, diabetes, loss of IQ points, endometriosis, autism. I have a page on that. I'll put it on my website. I'll put it there. So why am I talking about endocrine modifiers to you? Because it's the bottle. If you're going to have a whole bunch of Perrier, you want it in a glass bottle. I avoid plastic like the plague. So all of our food is stored in steel or glass containers in the fridge. Yes, it has a plastic lid, but the guy who discovered endocrine modifiers that they mess up your hormones, he did a subsequent study where he just told all of the people who worked in his lab, he said, go to Walmart, go to Costco, just bring me any sort of food containers made of plastic. And then he ran his tests on like, I think 200 different sorts of plastic used with food, like spatulas and Tupperware, to see if it had endocrine modifying effects. And the vast majority of these are endocrine modifiers. Oh, but the cans that I have say it's BPA free. Yeah, BPA free just means they haven't done the studies on the thing they used to substitute for the BPA. So you're probably sorry you asked the question at this point, but like I say, check the sodium on the Perrier and have it in a glass bottle. That's probably the big health thing.
Okay, thank you so much. That's good to know. I usually get the smaller like tins. They come in 10 or so, but yes, I can certainly switch to glass bottles. So that's the biggest issue with it. Is it just the bottle, how it's packaged, or the Perrier itself?
Well, as long as it doesn't have sodium in it. Like some of these mineral waters are high in sodium. I don't think Perrier is, but it'll say on the nutrition label on the side, just see how many milligrams of sodium is in it, because you want to be less than 2,000 milligrams a day of sodium as a generalization. But if those two things are okay, yeah, I think you're okay. Anyone else want to chip in? I'm not a real expert on water.
I think it's that the hardness of the water, the mineral content. Sorry, excuse me. So we know that the hardness and mineral content of water is health beneficial. That was actually done mostly in China, but China has certain areas that have poverty and undernutrition. So it's not clear that the mineral content is as important in North America. So to me, I think water is the #1 beverage. The liners and things of that nature, it's a very interesting concept and something I think we should be more attentive to. But I think Perrier water is a better choice than many other choices. So I still drink a lot of tap water. I think it's good. And you know, France has actually done a great job, is that you can get water pipe through France, either mineral water or non-mineral water, very easily. I wish we did that in Canada better.
Is tap water? I don't think tap water is very good for us.
No, I mean, I think that's I think you're wrong.
Dr. Ganguli,
You can put through a filter if you want to, but
really?
tap water is, I think the piping in your building is probably something we could be more careful of, but water is water. So I'm not too concerned about our water right
But
now.
don't they put chlorine? Don't
I don't think it's a
they
bad
put
thing.
chlorine through our water and other chlorine is bad to drink.
I'm not
Yes, I don't drink chlorine actually. I don't drink tap water, but don't they put chlorine through the tap water
Water is cleansed in a certain way.
to kill all the
Yep.
germs?
Again, I think right now I'm not too concerned about that myself. I'm not sure if anybody else has an opinion on that.
So, if you're concerned about chlorine, I don't know who is asking. You can just fill up your tap water and leave it open. The chlorine generally will evaporate. Also, adding a little bit of lemon in it as well, is helpful if you're drinking tap water.
Oh, thank you. So you're recommending tap water is okay rather than bottled water
I generally
to drink?
If you're buying it from the cans and from the plastic bottles, you're getting the compounds that Dr. Ganguli is worried about. I think you're probably better off using tap water.
Oh, I see.
Also, the other thing too is that all these plastic bottles, things that we're doing right now is terrible for the environment at this stage. There's going to be more plastic in the ocean than there's going to be fish soon. So I'm really trying to be attentive to the environment as well. So I think about what I buy these days. I just want to thank everybody. This has been a fantastic discussion. I want to thank Aditi, Mona, and everybody else that put their hearts and souls. I've learned so much, and I'm really enjoying my treats. Now, the biggest problem for me is not eating them all right now. I don't know how to prep, and they're delicious.
Refrigerator? Did you keep them in the refrigerator, or are you just having them?
Right now, I put them on this plate over here. I'm just snacking away. I'm going to let them cool down a little bit. And so one of the things before I put things in the refrigerator right now is that I'm trying to save electricity for the environment. So I'm going to let them cool naturally first. I'm going to put them in the refrigerator later. I'm going to find some glass jars to put them in. And this is wonderful.
So you need to cool it for about 20 minutes before you refrigerate anyways, and that just makes it easier to cut. But before we go, can I share the healthy treats? And I would love to do a lucky draw, and I will do that and send it to Aditi once I have the members. I think Aditi, will you be able to email it to me?
Yeah, I can do that.
Okay, awesome. So would you like to see what's in my healthy treats? Of course, if I'm mentioning oils in my recipes, please, replace it with banana, replace it with applesauce, and I'm sure Dr. Ganguli will have more replacements on that. So if I can share my screen, I can share my healthy treats recipe booklet that I put out for everybody.
Yeah, you should have permission to share the screen.
Awesome, thank you. So a couple of things. So I'm going to just share this. So Dr. Ganguli, when you were talking about, so this is something I also personally believe in, is the barrel effect, right? I mean, what goes in our body really matters. So I, again, share things like this. What are the chemicals in some of the things that we have on a day-to-day basis? Sometimes the processed foods, food coloring and stuff like that. So, if anybody's interested, I can definitely send out this particular particular document that I share with my clients that I've put together for my clients. And, again, rules to follow for organic as well, because sometimes not everybody's able to go for organic. So local or organic from faraway land is something I generally tend to go for. So I just thought I'll share that. Other than that, this is the booklet for healthy treats that I put together for everybody. Can everybody see this?
Yeah.
Awesome. So I've put together quite a few recipes. I've added some chocolates because I know Dr. Curnew is a chocolate fan. So here we go. These are, so I've added lemon blueberry muffins, mini harvest peach oatmeal muffins, chocolate chip cookie pie, peanut butter breakfast bars, monster breakfast cookies. Now these are super healthy. Again, you talk about using banana in your baking. That's really awesome. Then I have apple spice oatmeal cookies. The pistachio pomegranate bark with dark chocolate is absolutely delicious. And then I have the inside out almond joy. So if you like the almond joy that we buy outside, this is completely made healthy for you. I also give you like what do you call this? The shopping list if you're making everything at once, but it doesn't have to be. I will include nutrition information. I believe Lori asked for it, and I can do that as well. So here are all the recipes that I will be picking one lucky winner from the group today, and I'm excited to do that. So I wanted to just share this with you guys. It is available for a small cost, and I generally donate everything to some charity that I choose. I've been doing that now since COVID. Is all my meal workshops are everything goes to a donation. And Mona and myself, we are actually doing a meal workshop on May 4th at 2 p.m. I know it's on a weekday in the afternoon. It will be recorded if anybody is interested. And we're talking about Spain, and we're actually doing paella as our choice of dish. And I will be making it vegetarian as well. So everybody will get a vegetarian and the original paella recipe made healthy with unprocessed foods. So please, reach out to me, and Aditi, you'll just give me everybody's names so I can do that later on.
Well,
Yeah, for sure.
I'd like to actually buy two of them today, one for Aditi for doing all this hard work and one for myself, if I may. So thank you so much for doing all this. And I enjoyed hearing about the Eastern provinces. I was sad to know that we make so many French fries and still we make foods that kill people in Canada. So I really appreciate everybody's conversation, and special thanks to everybody today. That was just fantastic. And what should we do next time?
So, Dr. Curnew, I have something in mind, and this is what I did at work. So we had the Delta airline has organized this. What would be your dream destination? And Sujata, we didn't get a chance to talk about it because it was recent. So Delta airline had asked what would be your dream destination and what would you do when you go to your dream destination on Delta airline. So Bora Bora is the bucket list. So I worked on Bora Bora, and then I was selected, and I got a gift certificate of $500 from that airline. So I was wondering, since that came up, I was wondering we can still talk about, the provincial food, but from now on, if we can select, and the COVID is like not going anywhere, so we can think of like the furthest destination, and if I can do Bora Bora next month, because I was the one who was selected.
Would love to hear it, if that's okay with everybody else.
Sure, yeah. So
I do
pardon me?
Sorry, go ahead.
No, Bora Bora was is actually one of our favorite. We want to go there. That's on our bucket list, and
Yeah,
there's so many amazing fruits. So mangoes,
yeah,
papayas, and
yeah.
yeah. So we're gonna keep it vegetarian, Dr. Curnew, for this.
I think so. I think people are, so to me, eating, you can actually make it both ways if you want to. If you want to include fish, you want to do that, that's fine. But always have a vegetarian option if that's okay.
Bora Bora has like sweet potatoes, jackfruit,
Yeah.
mangoes, papayas, and we can pick a lot from there. I just wanted to know in future. So I'll try to always keep it vegetarian or vegan, but just in case, depending on the destination of our choice.
Yeah. So we have decided that we have a family in Tasmania. So when we have told them that whenever we are coming to Tasmania, we'll extend our trip to Bora Bora. So I was wondering about the date, Dr. Curnew and Aditi. So would you like to do in the month of May, like continuously? So if we are doing in May, maybe like 9th or the 16th of May.
Yeah, either of those options are fine. I was actually going to send out like a Google form that I have the email prepared for. I just need to hit send now that everyone's here. So if you have any suggestions for like dates, format, just let me know on that. In terms of the date in May, if we're doing like a month from now, I think that's the 9th of May. Does that sound okay to everyone?
Is it possible May 16th?
May 9th is Mother's Day, right?
Oh, yeah. That's
May
Mother's Day.
16th is
Sorry
better.
about that.
So we'll do May 16th, is that okay?
16th, yeah.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
Okay, is that good for everybody, May 16th? Is that for everybody's schedule?
Yeah. And Dr. Curnew, since I was working on Bora Bora, there were so many places like which I was thinking is like the furthest from now on, and we can still.
You tell us whatever you want to do. Is we're just grateful
Okay.
for whatever you think is great. Like to learn about everything.
Thank you, Dr. Curnew. I appreciate that.
Thank you. I just want to thank everybody's participation. Lots to learn and so much more to explore, and appreciate everybody's comments. So, and a special thanks to Aditi, who's really puts this all together for everybody's help, is that she's done a wonderful job, and everybody's done a wonderful job. And special
Thank
thanks to everybody coming tonight, and thank you for Mona, Sajuda, Dr.
Thank you.
Ganguli, Ernie, Chad, everybody else said that there's so much to learn. And why don't you, Dr. Ganguli, just say a word about your website. I love your website. Why don't you say a couple words about that?
Oh, okay. So yeah, well, this all started when I became pre-diabetic, and I studied myself in this plant-based diet reluctantly, lost 20 pounds, felt great, and I'm not pre-diabetic. So my website, and I'll just send it out to everyone in the chat box, it's foodisprevention.com. And it's basically, because I started talking to patients about it, because I thought, well, maybe they don't want to be sick either. So basically it's a collection of what do I need to do, what do I eat, and what's the data to support it. So it's basically, it connects you with more or less everything I found that was useful over the last 2 years. So it's foodasprevention.com. So foodasprevention.com. Yeah, I just sent it out in the chat box. And so, like I say, it links you to hundreds and hundreds of recipes. It tells you, do I need supplements? It tells you, should I waste money on organic food or not? And it has a big section on cancer. It has a big section on heart disease. It has a big section on obesity and diabetes. And to be honest, I have a whole bunch of pages that I don't even directly link to. So just use the search box. Like I just had someone do a huge, very cool article on garlic, where they looked at medical studies of garlic. And there's something, once again, meta-analyses. They have summarized multiple medical studies of the benefits of garlic. Although to be honest, that's kind of a level 2 thing. Level 1 is you get off the toxic stuff. But yeah, it's just a good, whatever. I guess I made it, so I'm biased. But it's kind of a collection of everything that I kind of came across over the last 2 years to help people practically do the journey. Because I think it's kind of neat, actually, that I think Dr. Curnew and I agree that kind of what you put into yourself and what you do to yourself, as the physicians would say, help us help you. If that bit the patient has to do is the lifestyle, if they do that bit, the physician's job is easy. Yeah. Thank you, Greg.
Dr. Curnew, I have a request. I was wondering that we share such an amazing wealth of knowledge, and having such an knowledgeable person around you. Is it okay if we can invite friends and family for the next session onward? Is that okay?
More the merrier.
Okay.
Let's get 10 million people to watch this, right?
That would be amazing, Dr. Curnew. Like your podcast, like people are so blessed with your vibe. They
No,
do podcast in a week.
No, just I think I've become good making videos and stuff that nobody watches. So let's